got a handout for the lunch wrap. For the lunch wrap. I only have a couple.
Oh,
Here.
okay. Well, we can share.
There's 3 handouts for the lunch wrap. Really? Oh, good. Time to eat lunch. Is that yours?
No, this is yours.
Heaven came down. I don't know if I could
There's a
eat
huge, huge pot.
I don't know if I could eat the whole thing.
There's crackers too.
Thank you so much. Is there a dumpling in there? Oh, really? They are? Is it good? It's great what God's doing in the Bible college. It's funny. I'm, I'm eating this like with this little spoon. To me, it's like little. Like I'm eating with this little spoon. And like I usually eat like, you know, what am I trying to say? I'm like doing this little thing, like a little mouse, you know. I'm telling the world, I'm eating soup with this little spoon. Can I eat the whole thing in one sitting? Well, Tommy got this for me. I don't know. Thank you. Did you use Bitcoin to buy it? You know when it takes so much work to eat, like I just worked really hard and I got about that. I'm gonna eat it later when I have a half an hour free time. No, I'm not complaining. Hi, Ula. Is that water? Okay. Our subject is two things, and they are uh, based on a diagram. We have a locomotive, and then the next car, and then the caboose on the train. Ben Wilczek, can you follow that with me? We've got a locomotive, we get the next car, and then the coming up at the end is the caboose. Okay, and this being an analogy for people's lives, coming from Matthew chapter 7, where Jesus said, he that does the sayings, my sayings, keeps my sayings. It's Matthew 7 to the folks on internet. Hi, June and David. Judy. Good to see you. Did I get David right? Did I get David right? Okay. Well, I'm above average. I'm 50%. So. Matthew 7, verse 24. Therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I would liken him to a wise man who builds his house on the rock. So this is similar to having a train locomotive and the engine being obedience and the fear of God. So the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And this changes our lives, to fear God and do what he says. So you have obedience, you have submission to objective truth, you have obedience to it, you have the fear of God. Because life is made that way. He that hears, what does it say? Hears these sayings of mine and does them. Okay, so that's like the foundation. Then comes faith. So I hear, I believe, I embrace them, and I do them by faith. Do I feel good about it? Not necessarily. Am I optimistic? Maybe, yes, in some measure, but not always. I just maybe obey. I just do what I'm supposed to do. I obey. I embrace it and obey. All right, this is in distinction to another way of living, which is the way of a fool. And so I gave a handout that we used this morning in the high school. And, I got the wrong one. This will work anyway. So the fool, do you have the other paper there, Leah? Oh, where is it? Bensko, you got it? Here. Oh, okay, Pam. Yeah, thank you so much. So a fool, and this is a person who does not build his house on the sayings of Jesus, but he builds on sand. And can you give any examples of foolishness in life? Okay, so this will be a little work for you at your table, okay? Just to get things rolling here a little bit. Can you give an example of foolishness in a very practical way in life where somebody is not fearing God and doing what he says, but instead they're living on their own, and they end up like with this list here of Proverbs 18:2. Maybe we could turn there and read it, and then we'll have you talk. Proverbs 18. Did I say 15? 18, yeah. Proverbs 18. A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. Right? A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. All right. Can you give some? Hi, Andrew. Good to see you. One example I think of, and it's a tragic one, is when a high school student in America, takes his life like a suicide. Okay, read the verse again. A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. Like he may be more occupied with expressing his emotion. There's depression, there's fear, there's loneliness, and what's missing is this, and we see this on the news now, more and more because of alienation and depression and so on, okay? So we have 18:2. A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. Another one is when a high school student, and again, I was just with them and we were talking about it, is that they might want to party or go out and have a good time and just be like living like that and not seeing the end game, not seeing where it goes. So I'm occupied with expressing my own self, not really hearing and believing and embracing, like what Jesus said. Okay? So I hope you kind of got a general idea, and then we'll look at a few more proverbs. So would you want to ask your person at the table, have you seen any foolishness, happening in life? You don't mention names of people, but, have you seen any, like, very, very foolish things that, people say or do or decide? Okay, what were some of the answers? We've got over here, Pastor Matt said, what was it? Extreme sports, maybe. My philosophy on extreme sports are I will take a risk, but why would I take an unnecessary risk? You know, like, is it necessary? I have, I can do it, but if it's a high risk, like one thing, an extreme sport is base jumping. Has anybody heard of that? Like jumping off of mountains, with with a suit, like a squirrel suit on, and you just are falling, but in a direction, and last minute you pull your parachute if you get a chance to. And I think the death rate is very high. It's like 24% or something. So it's like for every jump, it's like a fourth of a chance you're going to die. I mean, it's very high. It's like, why would you do that? And even the guy that does it, he's always making it, always making it. It's just a matter of time before he doesn't. But is that foolish? According to, well, the emotion, here's about the train. The train is, the locomotive is truth, and embracing it in faith and living by it is a thrill. But the fool has no delight in that. But a wise man has delight in that. That's very important. Like, the fool doesn't enjoy that. He doesn't have any delight in it. But why do you delight in it? Because it really glorifies God. Like, that's the key. Like, why do you obey God? Why do you follow God? Because you enjoy glorifying, the thought of glorifying God. Are there strong feelings with it? No, not necessarily. There may not be strong feelings in it, but I rather be wise, build my house on a rock, so when the storm comes, I'll be able to survive. Another one, Tommy had one. Okay, all religion and all belief, it's all the same to me, like somebody could say. That's foolish because it contradicts the nature of life. Actually, the quality, the more the specific. Like, the more specific is needed for the higher quality. Like, the more general, the lower the quality. Like, meaning, like a machine that's very specific is like a very narrow engineering, like the whole engineering. It's like the human body, actually. It's like a very narrow number of like elements that only within this very narrow field will you be able to live and think, and to be who we are. So, in other words, if you have all the religions are the same, or all the whatever you believe and so on, it contradicts the nature of life, It's like mathematics. You have a right answer and a wrong, and it's only one right answer. Only one right answer. That's the idea. I have one mother. I only have one. I don't have many. I have one. I have one mother. And so for God to be God really is like a very narrow thing in a way. It's not general. And if you have it general, then it's, it contradicts, the nature of it. So that's just an argument for it. So, but let's go to our point, and it is, in the book of Proverbs, there are many proverbs with the word fool. and it's not an appealing word. Like if we walk around talking, like saying that's a fool or that's foolish, that's not a good thing for our today in our culture. You can't do that, like talk about fools, like that's narrow and bigoted and judgmental and everything. But I'm not talking about it like that. I'm talking about it in the book of Proverbs, that there is such a thing as a human being he is wrapped up in himself in such a way that 100 stripes, this is Proverbs, where is it, 24? Would you turn there? No, 17. Proverbs 17 in verse 10. Reproof is more effective for a wise man. Why? Why? A wise man is listening. So when you correct him or you talk to him, he's all ears. Not just like he's just listen. All of his heart and his mind, he's paying attention. And a reproof is now to get a man to be that way or to be humble. It may be a process, but the best thing for any of us would be to be ready to hear as much as we possibly can. But a fool is different, and it says that here. It says, then 100 blows on a fool. So reproof is effective. You can tell a wise man, and he hears you right away because it resonates with him. But a fool doesn't hear you, and even if you beat him, you try to beat him into it with 100 blows, it doesn't change him, because he's so wrapped up in his thing, which is Proverbs 18:2, for him to discover himself, or for him to live his own life. And so stripes, like the high school asked me this morning, like, what does it mean, stripes, 100 stripes? And it was like when Jesus was whipped, beaten by the Romans, these were stripes. It was like a lashing, wasn't it? And so you could take a fool and talk to them for a day and another day and another day and another month later and another time and another time, and he's just not getting it, right? So it's very hard. And you think about God making us and God wanting to correct us and lead us in a way which maybe by nature we wouldn't go that way because we're emotional. And that's like the train. The locomotive is my emotions and my self-life, not truth, but the locomotive is my self-life, and then what follows is the consequences of my foolishness, right? You guys are responding to this message the same way as the high school did, which was like they were getting lower and lower in their chairs, more and more quiet, more and more. What? Yes, yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Judy said, being a nurse, she sees the overdoses and drug addiction and everything, and they may not believe it's going to happen to them. Yeah, and you could have example after example, and they still don't get it. Yeah, it's like that proverb about getting drunk and going back to the vomit, maybe, going back and I will do it again. We've been there maybe. We how easy that is to be emotional and looking for the high are looking for, what I want and this type of thing. What is it? Okay. Okay, yes. It's crazy. It's not commonsensical at all, yeah. Okay, go to another proverb. It's the one where 26:8. Like one who binds a stone in a sling is he who gives honor to a fool. So, maybe you've heard me preach on that before. Anybody? Have you? You put a stone in a sling. That's an ancient world weapon, is a slingshot with a stone in it. What's the modern version of that? Yeah, a bullet in a gun, okay. And then hand it to a child. And you've set the stage for some, anxiety anyway. A child has a loaded gun. Not good. So when a foolish person is honored, you're kind of putting them in a place where you don't know what damage they're going to do and when will it happen, because they may be emotional. And actually, I was talking to one of our brothers in Hungary, and I was just thinking how I was saying, it's very important that the church would have the people coming to the church would be generally happy people. Like wisdom will do that. Wisdom will lead us in joy. Wisdom will do that. So you and I might assume that we would always be happy as people and generally positive and encouraging. But it doesn't happen all the time in churches. Where do churches go? Where do they slide? What happens to churches? What could happen to a church? Yeah, you guys are awesome because you're like, you're awesome. You're amazing. Okay, it goes. Where is this going? If you change, let's say, here we are here right now in the cafe, having a nice time, listening to, and having generally a good time. We love each other. If we're going to talk to each other, it's going to be good. It's going to be positive. It's going to be edifying. But if you change it so that, you don't like me and I don't really like you and we're in the same church, then will I come back to that meeting? Will I want to be with you? Will I come back to the meeting? If that grows, if the thing of discontentment and dissatisfaction and negativity, if that grows amongst a group of people, then you're going to end up with losing a lot of people. And you're also going to end up with a general feeling of like, I don't want to go. So that may be obvious, but foolish people, they don't have a good time together. Okay, there's alcohol. Okay. Take the alcohol away. They don't really have a good time because they're kind of empty. All right, so do they have a good, yeah, they party, or they jump off a mountain or something. But I mean, really, is that like, what is a good time is truth in the human heart sets you free. And truth really is linked to love. And love rejoices in the truth. And then the emotions follow from the wisdom and the truth, and you find yourself in a healthy church. Really? Isn't a healthy church a fellowship of wisdom where people are embracing, you know? Okay. So do we honor fools? Look at the proverb again. It's 26:8.